overall we had a very good year. You couldn't ask for a better group of officers than those which I had working with me. And before I go any further, I'd like to have my officers come forward at the altar if they would when I call their name. And I've got a little token of my appreciation that I'd like to give them as outgoing master. Brian Harrison, Mike Yates, Bill Law, Bud Lyle, Herman Blackwell, Mike Lambert, Gary Miller, Spencer Sigmund, I also have one extra one for what? Your what?
I'll pick that one up.
I don't think I can. I also have one extra for a friend of mine who I called on a lot this year, who helped me out a lot, Brother Steve Vincent. I also have one other thing I'd like to do before I go out of office. And a lot of times, families give up a lot of time with these guys who are in the lodge. They spend a lot of hours up here practicing. They spend a lot of hours coaching, helping new people to get in, going to different schools, and all too often these guys don't really get the recognition that they deserve. This year we had one fellow in particular who, in my opinion, went over and above what he should have done to be in the lodge or his duties required of him. Anytime I asked him to do anything, he did it without question. He probably helped coach everybody that came through this year. And I'd like for Herman Blackwell to come forward, please. You know, I'm going to throw Brian's notes away. Brother Herman, it is indeed an honor and privilege for me to present to you the first Master's Award from Denver Lodge number 757. This award says, the Master's Award presented to Herman Blackwell of Denver Lodge number 757, Denver, North Carolina, in recognition and appreciation of his achievements and accomplishments, thereby contributing greatly to the welfare of the lodge and the happiness of the brethren. Congratulations. Well, that's about all I'm going to say. I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to appoint Ricky Sigmund as marshal and turn it over to Ricky and Sammy West for the installation.
Y'all folks think he was long-winded? Wait till this is over with. I've been notorious for long speaking engagements and telling stories, but believe me, everything here tonight is in black and white. It is lengthy, and we'll try to cut it as short as possible. Again, this is for the installation of new officers for 1992. We're going to begin with the Secretary. You will announce the names of the officers duly elected and appointed to serve this lodge for the ensuing year, who, as their names are called, will take their positions according to rank and
Senior Warden. Irwin Blackwell, Junior Warden. Bill Mull, Treasurer. Harry Lytle, Secretary. Michael Lambert, Senior Deacon. Gary Miller, Junior Deacon. Max Sims, Stewart. Drew Barnes, Stewart. David Sexton, Chaplain. Spencer Sigmund, Tyler.
We need to turn them around. Hold on, Brother Jim. Who would take their names as they were called and take their positions according to rank and line west of the altar, which was correct. Reverse. That's fine. That's fine. We won't have to do it on there.
North end of the line.
That's right. We don't get correct this. Worship Master, are these brothers who have been selected for their respective offices qualified for those offices in accordance with the provisions of the code, in accordance with provisions as a proficiency in the catechism of the Master Mason's degree?
They are.
Brethren, behold your officers elect. If there is no objections, we will proceed with the installation. Each officer to be installed will place his right hand over his heart and repeat after me the official declaration. I promise upon the Honorable Master Mason.
I promise upon the honor of Master Mason.
That I will, to the best of my ability.
I will, to the best of my ability.
Conform to and abide by.
Conform to and abide by.
The ancient landmarks, regulations,
Ancient landmarks and regulations.
and the usages of masonry.
And the usages of masonry.
The constitutions and the laws of the Grand Lodge.
Constitutions and laws of the Grand Lodge.
Of ancient, free, and accepted Masons of North Carolina.
Of ancient, free, and accepted Masons of North Carolina.
And the laws of this lodge.
And the laws of this lodge.
That I am faithfully and will faithfully perform the duties of this office.
And will faithfully perform the duties of this office.
Which I have been selected.
Which I have been selected.
Brother Marshall, present the Master-elect.
Worship Master, I now present you Brother James Bryan Harrison, who has been elected Master to this lodge for the ensuing year.
Brother Chaplain. What? Worship Master, kneel for the purpose of prayer. Brother Chaplain, approach the altar by the south side and lead our devotion. lodge. You will agree to be a good man, true, and strictly to obey the moral law. You agree to be a peaceful subject and cheerfully to conform to the laws of the country in which you reside. You promise not to be concerned with plots and conspiracies against governments, but patiently to submit to the decisions of the Supreme Legislature. You agree to pay a proper respect to the civil magistrate, to work diligently, live credibly, and act honorably by all men. You agree to hold in vindicature the original orders and patrons of the orders of masonry and their regular successors, supreme and subordinates according to their stations, and to submit to the awards and resolutions of your brothers, when convened, in every case consistent with the Constitution of the order. You agree to avoid private quarrels and to guard against intemperance and excess. You agree to be cautious in carriage and behavior, courteous to your brother, and faithful to your Lord. You promise to respect genuine brethren and to discountenance impostors and all descendants from the order plan of Masonry. You agree to promote the general good of society, to cultivate the social virtue and the knowledge of the art. You promise to pay homage to the Grand Master and to his officers when duly installed, and strictly to conform to every edict of the Grand Lodge or General Assembly of Masons. That no supervisor of the principles and groundworks of Masonry. You admit that it is not in your power or any man or any body of men to make innovations in the body of Masonry. You promise to regularly attend the committees and the communications of the Grand Lodge on receiving proper notice and to pay attention to all the duties of Masonry on convenient occasions. You admit that no new lodge shall be formed without permission of the Grand Lodge, and that no countenance be given to an irregular lodge, or to any person initiated therein, being contrary to the ancient charges of the order. You admit that no person can be regularly be made a Mason in or admit a member of any regular lodge without previous notice and due inquiry into his character. You agree that no visitor shall be received into your lodge without due examination and producing proper vouchers of their having been initiated into a regular lodge. These are the regulations of free and ancient Masonry. My brother, do you submit to these charges and promise to support these regulations as masters have done in all ages before you?
I do.
Brother Brian Harrison, in consequence of your cheerful conformity to the charges and regulations of the fraternity, you are now to be installed master of this lodge. In full confidence of your care, skill, and capability to govern the same, Brother Marshall, invest the master with the jewel and apron of his office. Master, you will now receive the furniture and the various implements used in your lodge. They are emblematic of our conduct in life, and upon this occasion are carefully enumerated. The holy writing, the great lights of Masonry, will guide you to all the truth. It will direct your path to the temple of happiness and point out to you the whole duties of man. However, many men may differ in creed, yet all men agree that within the pages of the Holy Bible are found those principles which lay the foundation upon which to build a righteous life. Freemasonry would take all men by the hand, lead them to its altar, would point to the Holy Bible, and urge each faithful to direct his steps through life by the light he should find within it. If from our sacred altar the atheist or irregular man should ever read this book and thus remove or even obscure the great light of Freemasonry, that light which has been for centuries the rule and guide of all Masons, then we can no longer claim the proud title and rank of Master Mason. But as long as that sacred light shines upon our altar, as long as it illuminates and brightens the pathway of the craftsman by the golden rays of truth. So long will Freemasonry live and shed its benefits and influences among men. Guard then, my brother, this sacred book as you guard your life. Defend it as you would defend the flag of your country. Live according to its sublime precepts. Govern yourself that you may be able to govern others. Learn first that you may be able to teach. For justice, moderation, and decorum should mark the acts of an upright man. The square teaches us to regulate our actions by rule and line, and harmonize our conduct by the principles of morality and virtue. The compass teaches us to limit our desires in every station. That rising to eliminate by merit, we live respected and die regretted. The rule directs that we should punctually observe our duties, press forward the path of virtue, and neither inclining to the right nor to the left, and all our actions have eternity in view. The line teaches the moral rectitude to avoid dissimulation in conventions and actions, and to direct our steps to the path which leads to a glorious immortality. Brother Mark, conduct the mass to the east by the south side of the altar. It is fitting that you should be covered when presiding over the lodge. Worship Master, I now place in your hands the gavel and additional signature of your rank and authority. Wear it, my brother, with prudence and discretion, firmly, but never arbitrarily, to the end that good order and harmony may be preserved. Worship Master now present the charter of the lodge and charge you that you must preserve it with unfailing care and deliver it to your successor in office. Brother Secretary, record in the minutes of this communication that the charter of this lodge, Denver number 757, has been delivered to Worshipful Brother Brian Harrison, Master. The Book of Constitutions and the bylaws are yours to search at all times. Cause them to be read in your lodge, that none may pretend ignorance of their excellent precepts. Worship Master, being selected master of this lodge, you cannot be insensitive of the obligations which dissolve on you as their head, nor of your responsibility for the faithful discharge of the important duties annexed in your appointment. The honor, reputation, and the usefulness of your lodge will materially depend on the skills on which you manage its concerns, while the happiness of its members will be generally promoted in proportion to the zeal and ability with which you will generally, with the genuine principles of our institution. For a pattern of intimidation, consider the great nature which, raising in the east, regularly diffuses light and luster to all within its circle. It is like manner in which you provide to spread and communicate light and instructions to the brethren of your lodge. Forcibly impress upon them the dignity and high importance of masonry, and sincerely admonish them never to disgrace it. Charge them to practice out of this lodge their duties which are taught in it, and by an admirable, discreet, and virtuous conduct to convene mankind of all goodness of this institution, so that whenever one is said to be a member of it, the world may know that he is one to whom the burdened heart may pour out his sorrows, to whom distress may prefer its suits, whose hand is guided by justice, and his heart expanded by benevolence. In short, by diligent observation of the bylaws of your lodge, the Constitution of Masonry, and above all, the Holy Scriptures, which are given as a rule and guide to your faith, you will be able to acquaint yourself with honor and reputation and lay upon a crown of rejoicing which should continue while time should be no more. Brother Marshall, present the senior warden at the altar for installation.
First of all, I now present you Brother Michael Yates, who has been elected senior warden of this lodge for the ensuing year.
Brother Marshall, invest the senior warden with the jewel and apron of his office. Brother Michael Yates, you have been elected senior warden of this lodge and invested with the insignia of your office. The level demonstrates that we are discrete from the same stock, partake of the same nature, and share the same hopes. And through distinctions among men are necessary to preserve subordination. Yet no admission of station should make us forget that we are brothers. For he who is placed on the lowest spoke of fortune's wheel may be entitled to our regard, because the time will become, and the wisest known not how soon, when all the distinctions but that of goodness shall cease, and death, the great level of human greatness, reduce us to the same state. Your regular attendance on your state communication is necessary. In the absence of the master, you are to govern his lodge in his presence. You are to assist him in the government of it. I firmly rely on your knowledge of masonry and the attachments to the lodge for the faithful discharge of the duties of this important trust. Look well to the west. Brother Marshall, conduct senior warden to his station. Brother Marshall, present the junior warden at the altar for installation.
First of all, I now present you Brother Herman Blackwood, who has been elected junior warden of this lodge for the ensuing year.
Brother Marshall, invest junior warden with the jewel and apron of his office. Brother Herman Blackwood, you have been elected junior warden of this lodge and invested with the badge of your lodge. The plumb admonishes us to walk upright in our several stations, to hold the scales of justice in equal pose, to observe the just medium between intemperance and pleasure, to make our passions and prejudices concern in the line of our duties. To you is committed the superintendence of the crowd during the hours of refreshment. It is therefore indispensably necessary that you should not only be temperate and discreet in the indulgence of your inclinations, but carefully observe that none of the crowd be suffered and convert the purpose of refreshment to intemperance and excess. Your regular and punctual attendance is particularly requested, and I have no doubt that you will faithfully execute the duties which you owe to your present appointment. Look well to the south. Brother Marshall, conduct the junior warden to his station. all monies from the hands of the secretary, make due entries of the same, pay them out by order of the worshipful master and consent of the lodge. So important is the handling of the lodge funds that the Constitution and regulations of the Grand Lodge and the laws of this lodge especially charge you to keep the funds received by you belonging to the lodge separate and discreet from all other funds under your control, and to hold all funds of the lodge so that they should be subject to the order of the lodge at all times. I trust your regard for the fraternity will be prompt you in the faithful discharge of the duties of your office. Brother Marshall, conduct the treasurer to his station. Brother Marshall, present the secretary to the officer for installation.
Worshipful Master, I now present you Brother Bud Lytle, who has been elected secretary of this lodge for the ensuing year.
Brother Marshall, invest the secretary with the jewel and apron of his office. Brother Bud Lytle, you have been elected secretary of this lodge. It is your duty to observe all the proceedings of the lodge, make a fair record of all things properly to be written, and to receive the monies due the lodge, pay them over to the treasurer, and take his receipt for the same. You are charged to observe carefully and obey the constitutions, regulations, and laws of the Grand Lodge, and the laws of this lodge pertaining to the office of secretary, so that you may be prepared at all times to perform properly and efficiently the many duties pertaining to your important office. Your good inclinations to masonry and this lodge, I hope, will induce you to discharge your office with fidelity, and by doing so, you will merit the esteem and applause of your brother. Brother Marshall, conduct the secretary to his station. Brother Marshall, present the senior deacon at the altar for installation.
Worshipful Master, I now present you Lambert, who has been appointed senior deacon of this lodge for the ensuing year.
Brother Marshall, invest the senior deacon with the jewel and apron of his office. Brother Mike Lambert, you have been appointed senior deacon of this lodge. You are act as a messenger of the master in the active duties of the lodge, and to give fraternal attention to inviting brothers, to receive and conduct candidates into the different degrees of masonry, and in the immediate practice of our rites and ceremonies to you, with such assistance as you may deem necessary, may be entrusted the explanations of visitors, and you are to perform such duties as the uses and customs of the craft may require, or the master may order. The square and compass, as badge of your office, I entrust to your care, no doubting your zeal and attention. Brother Marshall, conduct the senior deacon to his place. Brother Marshall, present the senior deacon at the altar for installation.
Worshipful Master, I now present you Brother Miller, who has been
to have special care to see that the lodge is properly tiled. If you cannot personally vouch for each person in the lodge room as a master mason at the time the lodge is being purged, you should proceed forthwith within the proper manner to satisfy yourself that the effects and the failure to perform this important duty shall be a serious offense. It is also your duty to announce the name of each visiting brother, together with the name, number, and location of his lodge, to be certain that he is duly vouched for and that he is properly clothed before he is admitted to the lodge, to perform such other duties as the uses and customs of the craft may require or the master may order. The square encompasses as badge of your office, I now entrust your care. I do not doubt your morality and attention. Brother Marshall conduct the junior deacon to his place. Brother Marshall, present the stewards at the altar for their installation.
Horse Master, I now present you Brother Max Sim and Brother Jim Barnes, who have been appointed stewards of this lodge for the ensuing year.
Brother Marshall, invest the stewards with the jewel and apron of their office. Brother Max Sims, Brother Jim Barnes, you have been appointed stewards of this lodge. It is your duty to provide for the comfort of this brethren, to assist the deacons of their office in performing their duties, to perform such other duties as may be required by the uses and customs of the craft, or as may be required by the ritual, by the master, or by the junior warden. Your regular and early attendance will afford the best proof of your zeal and attachments to the lodge. Brother Marshall conducted the stewards to their place. Brother Marshall, present the chaplain at the altar for installation.
Worshipful Master, I now present you Brother David Saxon, who has been appointed chaplain of this lodge for the ensuing year.
Brother Marshall, invest the chaplain with the jewel and apron of his office. Brother David Sexton, you have been appointed chaplain of this lodge. It is your duty to perform those solemn services which we should constantly render to our Creator, and which may, by refining our souls, strengthen our virtue, and purifying our minds, prepare us for admission to the society of those whose happiness will be endless as it is perfect. This Holy Bible, which rests upon our altar, is the great light and mastery, and forever sheds its rays upon every lawful assembly of ancient, free, and accepted masons. From it we may learn our duties to God, our neighbor, and ourselves. Teach us from its life-giving precepts, and you will faithfully have fulfilled your sacred and important trust. Your good inclination of mastery and your lodge will endue you to your discharge the duties of your office with fidelity, and by so doing will merit the esteem and approval of your brother. Brother Marshall, conduct the chaplain to his place. present the titles at the altar for the installation.
Worship Master, I now present to you Brother Spencer Sigmund, who has been appointed tither for this lodge for the ensuing year.
Brother Marshall, invest the title with a jewel and apron of his office. Brother Spencer Sigmund, you have been appointed titler of this lodge. It is your duty to guard the entrance of the lodge, to report all brethren for admission to the junior deacon, to announce the name of each visiting brother, together with the name, number, and location of his lodge, to see that each brother who enters is duly qualified and properly clothed, to keep a register of visiting brothers, to perform such other duties as may be required by law, the usages and customs of the crowd, or by order of the master. The marshal will now invest you with the implement of your office. As the sword is placed in your hands of the titler, it enables him effectively to guard against the approach of cowards and eavesdroppers, and suffer none to pass or repass, but such as are duly qualified, so that it should morally serve as a constant admonishing to us to set a guard at the entrance of our thoughts, to place a watch at the door of our lips, to post a sentinel at the avenue of our actions, thereby excluding every unqualified and unworthy thought, word, and deed, and preserving consciences void of offense towards God and man. Your early and punctual attendance will afford the best proof of your zeal for the institution. Brother Marshall will conduct the titler to his place. Such is the nature of our Constitution, that as some must necessarily rules and teach, so others must conform to learn, to submit, and obey. Humility is both in it an essential duty. The officers who are appointed to govern your lodge, you significantly convent with the rules of our precepts and the laws of the institution, to avoid excessive the power with which they are entrusted. You are to generously disposition their preferment. Now therefore trust that you will have but one aim, to please each other and to unite the grand design of being happy and communications happiness. Finally, my brother, as this association has been formed and perfected with so much unanimity and accord, that in which we greatly rejoice, so may its long continue. May kindness and brotherly affection distinguish your conduct as men and as masons. Within your peaceful walls, may your children celebrate with joy and gratitude the transactions of this solitude. And may the tenets of our profession be transmitted through your lodge, pure and unimpaired, from generation to generation. Brother Marshall, I now declare the several officers of this lodge duly installed. You will proclaim this to the south, the west, and to the east.
I now, by order of the installing officers, declare that the officers of this lodge duly, for the ensuing year, duly installed. I make this proclamation to the south, the west, and to the east.
Worshipful Master, behold your brethren. Brethren, behold your worshipful Master.
Please be seated. Well, let me just say it's been a long time coming. here and do a little oration, I want to do one thing to put one of my brothers at ease. Brother Bill Anderson, will you meet me up at the altar, please? I have been following in this man's footsteps for the last 6 or 7 years anyway. In fact, one of my children asked me earlier which chair I was going to sit in, and what chair I have sat in. I said, I've sat in all the chairs. And Bill Anderson, Brother Bill, was always in the one ahead of me. So in Mason, you learn a lot of things to improve yourself. And I always tried to learn my part, hopefully for the next year, if I was elected into such a position, by watching Bill, so that I have a head start on things. And I never went wrong by following Bill and trying to learn from him. What I have here is something that Bill has earned from his efforts last year. This is a past master's apron. And this is certainly a emblem of honor, position of honor in our fraternity. Anytime Bill now goes into any Masonic lodge, his name will be suffixed by past masters. So, Brother Bill, I just wanted, before I started talking, I wanted to take you off the hook and make you as relaxed as I could. Thank you. And go from there. You are. You don't have to if you don't want to, but figure after all those years.
Once again, I got your chair warm.
I hope so. Good. Well, I'll tell you, I know everybody's tired. That was a long effort, but I have to thank a lot of people for getting me here. And since I like to eat, I'd first like to thank all the efforts of the people downstairs, the Eastern Star, Belle Barnes and her ladies that support us so well throughout the year. And also everyone that brought a covered dish tonight. I thought it was great, and I think everybody, maybe a quick round of applause for the food. Next, I'd like to thank two of the fellows that were most instrumental in getting me into this organization, and those fellows are Ricky Sigmund and Sammy West. And as you can tell after tonight, you can see how I repaid them by getting me into this organization, by asking them to be the marshal and the installing officer for me. So, but I'll have to say, it's really been good for me, and I've seen this in other people too. When I first came through that door, I was very apprehensive, very nervous, somewhat antisocial. Certainly my priorities were elsewhere other than caring about people and getting to know people and working with people and all that. And also self-improvement was not a big priority at the time. But very amazing what a few years inside this organization will do along those lines. And it's good to see it's not just me, it's the other fellows I see coming in too. Watching them change and evolve and grow over the years. And of course, a lot of that is the having the elders, the past masters around. So, Sammy, I want to thank you for those 10,523 words that you said for me this evening.
Well, I'm glad you recognized me again. I wasn't through.
Well, here.
No, just kidding.
We'll talk a little bit about the past masters just a second. If you'll notice over here on the wall, you'll see the past masters of Denver Lodge number 757. And I knew all but a few of these gentlemen. And I'll have to say each one of those men and their realms, if you will, contributed quite a bit in moving the lodge from point A to point B to point B to point C. not unlike big business, for example, when you have a chief executive officer that comes in and takes a company from $1 million business to a $10 million business, and then they find out it takes someone else to go from a $10 million business to a $100 million business, et cetera. And so this is very much like that. I can remember when I first took my first degree in masonry, I wasn't as worried about what they were going to do with me or for me or during the degree as I was about like getting bitten by a rat when I was standing there barefooted, because we weren't in a building that I would call a Masonic lodge, and there was no heat. It was very, very cold, and again, Bill was cold and Herman was cold, I think, and in fact, didn't someone like kill a snake or something that night? I don't remember, but anyway, it was an interesting, not having a lodge. It was a very temporary situation, and many of the brothers that you've seen here have been instrumental in providing us such a nice building as we have here. So it's going to be exciting for me to try to figure out where I can contribute, and of course, it's not just a one-man band at all. You never get anything done really by yourself. It's a lot harder sometimes to get something done through working through people, and you're trying to get a group of people heading in the same direction. But usually the results are typically much better. And if you think of what a group of individuals we have here at Denver Lodge, some of our meetings that we have are very interesting. We did something last year under Bill's guidance. We had a Masonic play. Some fellows from Winston-Salem came down, and it was really interesting in that the theme of the play was conflict, and lots of conflicts, lots of discussions, lots of infighting during the meetings, and not unlike our meetings actually, but the end result of the play was that a number of very, very good things were done, and people's lives were improved and enlightened throughout that. As I was told a long time ago, I can learn something from everyone I come in contact with, and that's certainly been true up to now, and I don't think it's going to change. One thing I didn't have written down in my little notes I wrote earlier was I travel quite a bit when I work, and it's really interesting. Somebody at work asked me one time why I didn't wear, say, a college ring or some other ring, some ring other than my Masonic ring. And I said, I like wearing my Masonic ring. And I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting in a restaurant, maybe alone on the road, or at a hotel, or in an airport, just sitting there, minding my own business, reading a book or whatever, and somebody sits down beside me and says, basically, we started. I can't tell you what we said, but basically, very quickly, we have an understanding, and any fear. You know, it's kind of like two rams in a field. You know. When one ram spots another ram, it's kind of like, I don't know how to take you. I'm certainly not going to be nice with you for a while. But when one mason realizes that he's in the presence of another mason, it's like the shields come down, and all of a sudden you've got a common point to start your discussions at, and it's really a great feeling. And it happened to me even internationally. I was in Bermuda, sitting in a restaurant by myself one day, and fellas came up and sat down. And you have to get used to people coming up and sitting down, okay? If you can't handle that, you don't want to be a mason, okay? But and just had a talk. He was from New York or someplace, and I would have never have talked to this person except for the fact that we had this in common. And it's amazing. You can see this ring miles away, and it's pretty amazing, actually. It's kind of like Green Lantern's ring when I was growing up. You know? So it's a nice thing to have. I'm really excited about all the officers we have in here. I am pleased and glad to know everyone in this lodge. when I first moved out here for dinner, I was from Charlotte, my wife was from Boulder City. She knew a few people out here, but I really didn't know anybody out here, and so there was Ricky down the road, and then later Sandy, and then on and on and on with everyone here, and I feel like I have a lot of friends out here, and things like, we started as a group picking up trash down the road here. A very small thing, if you will, but I think it was our first real step in the right direction in terms of trying to find what we could do for the community, and us also working together to come to one common goal. And I certainly hope that we can do more of that. As one of the things, one of the tenets of Masonry is that charity extends beyond the grave. And I've heard a lot of people in the last year or so, and even before, talking about, hey, charity, maybe we could do some more things. We do support, if you don't know, we support an orphanage up in Oxford, North Carolina. We also support a Masonic Eastern Star home, old folks home, if you will. And there's also a foundation that is trying to become, to make these other two organizations self-sufficient. So there's lots of need out there. We have contributed in the past, but maybe not as significantly as we can in the future. And I certainly hope that the time is right now for us to start coming more together as a group and seeing if we can't do more things from a charitable point of view. And the other thing is, they usually say charity starts at home, and we're not called Denver Lodge number 757 for any reason other than we are here in Denver. And I've heard other brothers say, hey, we should do something here so that we're better known, better understood. And I think the key word is the understood. I even had one comment tonight from my sister, who I'll introduce in a few minutes, saying, she said something to the effect, so this is, in joking of course, but this is where you hold the satanic cold. And I said, well, I've heard lots of comments like that, and that people don't understand Masonry. If I can give you just a little bit of one secret, and I hope I don't misquote this. Let's see. I'm not going to misquote it if you want to read it. I forgot it. The first thing a Mason, all the Mason guys will beat me up after this, but the first thing you learn in Masonry is that we're here to learn to subdue our passions and improve ourselves in Masonry. And so it's not a drinking club, and we don't come down here and play poker once a month or anything else. We actually come down here and talk about things that are self-improving and good. And maybe the wise may not believe this, okay, but it's true. And I just won't go into it, but it's really good. So I think there's a lot of things we can do to help improve the overall perceptions out there from outsiders, if you will, regarding what Masonry is and what Masons are and what they stand for and what they believe in. Because we're not a cult, we're not anything else, and we do believe in God, and we're not anti-social or anti-government or anti-Republican or anti-government or anti-Hinduism or anything else. It's just a group of guys that believe in certain things, and the nice thing is that you can meet a Mason from England or Germany or any other country, and you have immediate, if you can talk their language, you can certainly talk the Masonic language. So anyway, I've rambled on enough here. Last but not least, they always say behind every good man is a good woman. I'm not sure if I qualify as a good man yet, but I'm working on it. But I certainly have a very good wife, and in the last couple of years also, I've really learned to enjoy my kids. There for a while you have work, and you have outside interests, and you have kids, and they're young, and they're a handful, and you think they're going mad. And I think in the last 6 months or so, the dust has settled a bit for me personally, and I think we all go through this, and I really feel good about where I'm at and what's going on and how the kids are doing, and I love them all to death, and so I'd like to introduce them to you, along with some other members of my family, which I also love, by the way. First, my wife Kathy, and if you would just stand up, and she's got Tyler there. Tyler's 3.5. He's a handful, but a cutie. And then there's Corey. Corey is what, 6 years old, Corey? Okay, and then Zach. Zach's what, 8? Don't ask me the birthdays. I don't always do that right. And Matthew. What are you, Matthew? Almost 12? Okay, good. Okay. Then my sister, who I really love my sister in that she is the most relaxed, funny person I've ever met in my life. I mean, nothing phases her. And I don't see how she does, because she certainly had some trials and tribulations in her life. But she's always smiling, and I don't think she's just, I think that's just the way she is. In fact, she's just like my aunt up in Pennsylvania. Absolutely. So my sister Susie.
Don't tell my age.
and then two of her children are here with us tonight. My nephew Timmy, the artist and the computer whiz, and Joshy, he's the sports nut and everything else. And then also, I'm really thrilled to have my parents here tonight. You know, it's funny. I'm 39 now, and by the way, the average age of Masons in North Carolina is something like 62. So last year, when the Grandmaster was here, he just couldn't get over the fact that we actually had a lodge of quote young people. It made me feel great, okay? Because I can see all these black balloons in my future.
Made me feel great too.
So I said, but he was just too old to see. I don't know, but anyway, it was. We really do have a young lodge and a lot of vitality. But I don't know why I said that. But my parents, oh yeah, I know why. You know, it's funny, I think, looking back, my parents and I we have a pretty good relationship now, but there were years, decades maybe, where we like butted heads at every turn, and I'd hear what they'd say, and it'd go right through, or whatever. But interestingly enough, you tend to find men, I think, tend to look back and say, hey, I'm beginning to act just like my father. And the good thing is that I'm very proud of my father, and so I don't feel, like that's a problem at all. In fact, my father, I think, taught me early on that money wasn't anything, wasn't everything. And as one of the songs I was listening to like said, there's no ray of light in a dollar bill. And I think that's very, very true. And my father, unlike some of our neighbors when I was growing up, didn't spend all his time chasing bucks, and that just wasn't where he was at. Not to say he didn't work hard. He certainly worked hard all his life and all that, but I think he just did the right thing. He's the epitome of a Southern gentleman to me, and so I'd like my father to spend Tony. And my mother, I'm not sure how these folks ever got married. I mean, it's kind of like oil and water, okay? But I think that's what it takes sometimes. My mother has been accused of having the strong will of the family. And, but, it's funny, and that's not to take anything away from my father, because my father was always very strong, but in a very quiet way. He would stand back until it was time to step in, and he would step in. My mother, on the other hand, ran the show day to day. And in looking back, I didn't always agree with her. In fact, I probably agree with her much less than with my father, because I could always kind of run to Dad, and Dad would just kind of, and eventually they worked it out. But I'll have to say that I think my mother was also right in that the things that she tried to get me to do, and I'd say her batting average was somewhere around 95, 96%, which I'm sure is much, much better than my batting average compared here today. But I'm trying to improve that. So, and with my mother, Charlotte Harris. And I'm really glad they could be here tonight.
Thanks, Brian. It turned out nicely.
See if I got them full. Well, I've hogged this intro stuff so far. So let me go down the line, so to speak, and let see who else has brought visitors, the officers, and then we'll go to the regular members, and then anybody else, and then we'll call it a night. Brother Michael, you have anybody to introduce or any comment?
I Well, my name's Michael Yates. I don't have any family or friends here tonight. Everybody else is
You have lots of
You got lots of friends here, Brother Mike.
I didn't mean it that way.
Stand up, Herman, so we have somebody here to do this.
Brother Herb?
I got my wife Peggy, and I couldn't talk, but we ain't been married long enough to talk long as you did. That's my other section.
I'm Mike Lambert, my wife Bob's with me tonight. We have a son that's 18, so naturally, we're not really sure where he's at.
Brother Kerry?
My name's Kerry Miller, and this is my wife Rhonda, and my little man's at home with my grandmother tonight.
I'm Bill Moore. My wife's at home cooking. I'm glad to be on the winning team another year. This is the 13th year.
She's seen the rest of you.
Brother Bud?
I go along with what Herman said. I couldn't talk as long as you could, but I know somebody could out-talk you. I'd like to introduce my wife, Sally.
Let me just make one comment here. Brother Bud and I have only been working together for a couple of weeks, but I know now where his hot buttons are and all that, because he'll call me up if I promise to do something by a certain time or day, and if that deadline passes, expect a call from Bud, and the first comments from Bud are on the phone, "You're fired." And of course, I went over one day to meet with Bud and actually do some of the things he was asking me to do, and I found the real power behind the trestle board, the newsletter that's being sent out. Here's Bud talking to me out in the garage. We walked inside, and guess who's doing the newsletter? It's Sally. So as I mentioned to Sally earlier, I think this is kind of like Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan. We know who's really doing the work here. It's a pleasure to have Brother Bud and Brother Bill, because they have been in providing service to the lodge for so long, and especially in the secretary. There's so much paperwork involved and so many things that have to be done correctly. Without Bud, some of the help, like Brother Steve Vincent and Brother Jim Barnes, who have helped us for many years, and we've gone on and done other things within the Masonic community, but still hang out down here as our home lodge. I mean, without them, we wouldn't be what we are today. So, Brother Jim?
Well, I'm Jim Barnes, and my wife told me to introduce her as the lady down Third birthday to clean up the dining room. I'm Max Sims, and my family is here.
I'm David Saxton, and my wife brought me and the food tonight.
Brother Sammy, since you were so instrumental in this,
He messed up again. Pardon? Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Get special first.
yeah, thank you.
I'm the Spencer Sigmund here.
Got a vote?
You got friends now.
No, I'm not here by myself. I'm here with my friends and family, brothers, and my lovely wife, Dale West.
Brother Richard?
As always, I got my wife too. She always comes and sits right there.
Any other members want to say anything or introduce anyone, or anybody else have any comments? Brother Nolan?
Well, Master, I think your mother and father deserves a round of applause after putting up with you all these years.
That's it. I'm not going to drag this out any longer, and I don't want to be known like Steve Benson as being somewhat long-winded or anything. So I'm glad I've kept my time here short. So anyhow, if you'd like. I would like to thank everybody for coming out. It's certainly a special time in my life, and probably a once-in-a-lifetime type of thing. And appreciate all the support everybody's given me and everyone else that's a member of this lodge. And I hope this lodge will begin to do even more noble things than we have in the past, and hopefully even pay off the building fund this year to boot. So anyway, good night and thanks for coming. Oh, I forgot. I was
Now you can go. Goodbye. Hey, you gonna take that deal? Pick up your salad.
my wife is going to be back. They get the
Thank you.